here's Brody Brazil.
Okay, so the document I'm about to highlight and break down here, it's actually 110 pages in length. That would have been tough to do here in the video format, to show you every last detail and highlight things that are important versus sifting through what's maybe not so much. But what I'm intending to do here is give this to you in a presentation format. This document, the Howard Terminal Design Guidelines, it came out right before the holidays, December 17th, 2021. It kind of got lost under the radar, but there are so many important pieces of information here, renderings. This is the most revealing document to date, I feel like, that gives us an idea of what Howard Terminal, the ballpark, is going to be like, but also the neighborhood surrounding the stadium. There are so many renderings, but also textual information here that we can now digest and get a better mental picture of how this project is eventually going to go. So again, not going to give you every last detail, but I am going to present here kind of the cliff notes of this 110-page document. I'm also not going to read every page of it, but I do want to begin with these couple paragraphs because I do feel like they're important. The vision for Howard Terminal. The Oakland Athletics Howard Terminal Master Plan presents a vision to establish a thriving, sustainable, mixed-use waterfront district oriented around a state-of-the-art ballpark and event center that will activate the Oakland waterfront as a regional destination year-round. I'll stop right there for a second. Regional destination, I've been saying this for quite some time. This is for Oakland, but this is also for Alameda County. This is for the entire Bay Area. This is for Northern California. People will travel from far and wide to visit and frequent this brand new project on a pretty regular basis. Also, the fact that it's year-round, I think that's so important. You think about the Coliseum right now. It's literally good for 80-plus dates a year. People come in, they park, they watch a game, and then boom, they're gone. They leave. It's not a place that people are going in November, December, January, February, but this Howard Terminal is a project that's going to create something that's year-round. I just felt like that's important to spotlight and highlight. Okay, back to the document. The master plan is envisioned as a continuation of Oakland's downtown and waterfront, extending the boardwalk at Jack London westward and increasing waterfront access for communities previously cut off by industrial uses and infrastructure. The master plan reflects the commitment of the A's to physically reconnect the waterfront with the rest of Oakland by improving pedestrian access through a network of open spaces, infrastructure improvements, public amenities, and experiences. Beyond the physical improvements, the new district will be a neighborhood with local and regional amenities. The master plan will support numerous businesses and commercial opportunities, as well as housing. And then there are these design principles, and what I also think about this, it's so cool that, you're starting a new neighborhood from scratch. This is literally a blank canvas. You don't have to worry about streets that were there from the 1920s and how to make them wider or deal with them. This is a brand new plot of land, essentially. It's just going to be flat ground, 55 acres. So what exactly do you do with it? Well, you follow these 4 design principles. You make it uniquely Oakland, reflecting the unique spirit, culture, and history of the city while prioritizing the needs of the community. You make it a green living space, fostering a sustainable green district with the ballpark as its anchor that enriches the built environment with ecology for the community health and well-being. Again, we're here in 2020. This is an important aspect of anything we do from here on out. I'm glad they're following that. Economic diversity, enabling diverse opportunities that encourage economic growth, inclusivity, and fostering the growth of an authentic, functional neighborhood that can remain vibrant and active 365 days a year. And then last but certainly not least, making it pedestrian-friendly or pedestrian-first, fostering an active and social district that prioritizes pedestrian-oriented mobility and encouraging movement, health, and play in all facets of life. Again, there's a lot of details down there, but I want to highlight those main points. Part of this open space network that they talk about are waterfront parks, Athletics Way, and the ballpark rooftop park. Athletics Way, I'll give you a little detail on that, and then we'll see it in a second. Athletics Way functioning both as a pedestrian street, activated by retail, and as an open space promenade, which orients visitors around the ballpark perimeter and provides various amenities, dining and retail opportunities, and spill-out spaces during game days. You can imagine this is going to be a heavily trafficked corridor when 35,000 people are coming in and out, and it's the perimeter of the stadium, so it efficiently moves people into and out of and around the ballpark. Then there's the waterfront park along the length of the estuary, a continuous waterfront park which includes the Bay Trail, will extend from Water Street and Jack London Square to the western edge of the existing wharf. The waterfront park will offer diverse settings for active and passive uses for both individuals and groups, with promenades, picnic areas, garden spaces, ample furnishings, and small-scaled, intimate moments. I don't know why saying that part just makes me feel a little weird. Small-scaled, intimate moments. Okay, there you go. But you understand what it's about. You can bring your family for a picnic, either your extended family or just your immediate family, or maybe your spouse or your significant other. You understand what we're saying there. And then there's the ballpark rooftop park. Such a tongue twister. The rooftop park atop the ballpark is envisioned as a park in the sky, an extension of this spectator experience for fans on event days, and a publicly accessible park for the remainder of the year. So there's your indication right there. Game days, not open to everybody. Non-game days, open to everybody. The park leverages the full 360-degree panorama and offers dramatic views of Oakland, the hills, and the bay. And it says here the rooftop park will be detailed in the building's final development plan. I got to say, people are aware of Howard Terminal as the cake. Like, everybody's getting a cake here. But there are some icings on the cake, but there are some toppings on this cake. And literally, this is the topping of the ballpark, I know. I don't think enough people have realized all the cool things that are coming with a project like this, or the views that you should be able to get from that rooftop park. You're opening up something that has never been done or seen before in the city of Oakland. Not to this extent, not to this magnitude. So new perspectives, again, we're talking about the A's staying in Oakland, keeping a team here, building a new stadium, facilities. That's all great. But these are things that everybody among the public is going to be able to enjoy on almost an everyday basis when the A's are not playing. All right, it talks about character streets, and there is a map of this later, like where these streets physically are for some who are not aware. Athletics Way, the Promenade, and Paseos. So Athletics Way is the circle. The Paseos are kind of like branches off that circular street. Then there's Market Street, the Waterfront Edge, Neighborhood Streets, and Filbert Street. And what this is doing here is kind of defining what these streets are. For example, the Athletics Way Promenade is an active public destination street that orients visitors around the ballpark perimeter. Market Street, for example, is the primary destination retail corridor within the district for visitors and locals alike. The Waterfront Edge corridor along B Street is a circulation street catering to both visitors as well as locals. And then the neighborhood streets are along Martin Luther King Jr. Way and Street A. They are smaller scaled neighborhood connections which prioritize local residents and the community experience. And then Filbert Street, this street is the primary commercial and office corridor within the district. So there you go. And I want to go back to Market Street right there. You can see at the very end, and it's tiny on this rendering, but it says there, this space is characterized by a strong retail street frontage, which frames the iconic view of the crane at the waterfront and includes various adjoining public spaces. So Market Street, kind of maybe the flashiest of them all, but every street here has its character, has its purpose. And then here is that map of Market in yellow, Myrtle kind of as part of the purple color there, Filbert on the far left in blue, and then Athletics Way in that reddish orange going all the way around the ballpark, and then the Paseos connecting everything else. So it kind of gives you an idea. Again, I'm not sure people are aware to this level of detail when they see this, like what exactly are they talking about? What exactly are they hearing about in a meeting? This gives you a much better perspective. Okay, land use distribution, and this gives you a bigger scale idea of the project in total. Along with new Major League Ballpark, the Howard Terminal site will include residential, office, retail, open space, arts, and cultural uses at full build-out. Now, this is important here. At full build-out, it will include up to, now, I'll give you the numbers in a second. You can see them right there. But full build-out, I want people to understand this is not going to immediately happen for opening day 2020, whatever, for the A's. Full build-out might be another 5, 10, 15 years beyond that. There are phases of construction here. So this gives you an idea in total. When the park and the project has reached full capacity, these are the numbers that they'll be targeting. 3,000 units of housing, 1.5 million square feet of office space, 270,000 square feet of retail, a 3,500-seat performance venue, and up to 400 hotel rooms. Those last two things I just want to quickly touch on. The 3,500-seat performance venue, this is not being talked about a lot. I mean, everybody's focused on the stadium and obviously housing and transportation. There are some main things, but this is one of those other toppings on the cake that I don't think people have fully realized. How about a facility that's at this space where there's already going to be plenty of transportation and parking, ingress and egress, but a place like this for high school graduations, to have concerts, to have the symphony come perform there. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this 3,500 seat indoor performing arts center. And again, a place like Oakland has helped so many performers thrive over the years. How about a place to showcase these human beings, these individuals? And again, it's a performer city. It quite honestly is. And so to have something like this as another place, another platform for it, I think is very cool. And then the hotel, up to 400 hotel rooms. I'm imagining that's one hotel. I haven't ever heard that it's going to be two of like 300 and 100 rooms. I think it's just one hotel of up to 400 rooms. The master plan prioritizes mixed-use development to accommodate a variety of lifestyles, income groups, and business opportunities within a highly walkable, environmentally friendly waterfront district. More importantly, the mixed-use character fosters the continuous activation of the streetscape throughout the day. Well-illuminated and active street frontages will foster a safe pedestrian environment into the evening hours. So they're thinking about all of this from scratch. Wide streets, well-lit streets, not a lot of conflicts with cars and people. Non-residential typologies, I think I'm saying that right, within the district are primarily located in the northwest corner of the site due to land use restrictions required by the city and Port of Oakland. So non-residential, let's just say non-residential buildings within the district are primarily located in the northwest corner, which we'll see in a second. The design guidelines allow larger floor plates for commercial land uses in order to meet the needs of the modern office work environments ranging from large established companies to small startup ventures. So those are the commercial buildings. And you can kind of see right here, it's color-coded, that salmon color in the top left. That's where they're talking about commercial buildings and opportunities. And it says residential prohibited right there in buildings 17, 13, 14, and 15. And then it's got the purple color. It's called, light purple. Flexible use, obviously residential and commercial there. And then those blue colored buildings, 7, 8, and 16, those are part of the Tidelands Trust compatible uses. I think those are in question in a sense of, and we'll talk about it, expanding the turning basin. If they actually have to carve away some of that from this project, it's flexible. It's kind of up in the air where, how, and when they will use any of that land. So that's kind of an uncertain part of the project. But basically they know commercial stuff farther away from the ballpark, residential stuff, more flexible use in that purple color right there. So again, all that giving you an idea of the layout of this project. Speaking of the turning basin, here is that maritime reservation scenario. Long story short, with the estuary, there is a turning basin. The whole estuary is not set up for larger ships right now, but to get them in there and to, more importantly, get them turned around and get them out of there, they need this turning basin to eventually be widened to kind of future-proof it. So they've already talked about this. The A's have stated, and I'll just read it to you here, as a condition of the land transaction, the Port of Oakland has reserved the right to up to 10 acres of the site. 10 of 55 acres on the site. That's a pretty significant amount. 10 acres of the site for the case in which they require a larger turning basin at Howard Terminal. The port has up to 10 years from May 20th of 2019. So they have until May of 2029 to determine if this land is required to expand the inner harbor turning basin. The maritime reservation scenario is designed to adjust the development plan should the Port of Oakland elect to expand the inner harbor turning basin. So that just gives you an idea. Stuff in that corner would not even be able to be developed until 2029 because they just don't know if they'll need that land. Now, I've recently seen that the amount of land that is required, and it does seem like it will be required, is far less than 10 acres. It might just be 2 or 3 acres. They might just shave off a little sliver corner of the Howard Terminal site right there. But it gives you an idea. I mean, look how far back this is cut right here in order to accommodate that turning basin, if in fact they actually need to make it that big. We'll continue here on with the public realm. And this is Section 2. The new Howard Terminal District includes significant public open space along Oakland's waterfront. This new landscaped environment is inspired by the history of the site as a working waterfront to create a new publicly accessible waterfront that speaks to this history by combining contemporary designs with more informal settings while simultaneously ensuring the growth of a vibrant, diverse, and inclusive neighborhood oriented around the new ballpark. But the reason I'm showing you this here, and you can kind of see how it's gold on one side and green on the other, I'm not sure if you can read it, but the gold area is listed as more flexible and urban, and the green area is more listed as informal and natural. Now, I think that's a matter of design, layout, hopeful usage. They're trying to keep more of the busy stuff on the stadium side of this property and whatever informal and natural is on the western side of it. Section 2.1, open space character. And I don't want to go into all this. There's a lot of text here, but it talks about those flexible and urban spaces versus the informal and natural spaces. Like the waterfront will provide a collection of flexible open spaces that can accommodate a wide range of activities and uses, from the small and intimate everyday settings to the open and dramatic settings that come alive with ball games and other events. That's the urban side. And then the informal and natural side, projecting and encouraging the creation of new ecological settings on the bay, a drastic evolution from the industrial site today. So maybe a little bit more earthy feel on the western side and a more urban feel on the eastern side. The open space network. Now, 18 acres of public open space. This is with the baseline scenario. So this is not part of the maritime reservation scenario, which cuts down several acres, maybe up to 10 acres total. But at the full build out with the baseline scenario, 18 acres of open public space. This is what the city of Oakland is getting, the county of Alameda are getting, people from our region are getting, 18 acres of public open space. Approximately 5 of those acres are Athletics Way, the Promenade, the Terraces, and the Plaza. About a half acre with the district plazas. Those are kind of built into Athletics Way. The Waterfront Park, and there are a couple different smaller parks listed in there. That's approximately 10 of those 18 acres. And then the Ballpark Rooftop Park. I'm going to have a hard time saying that. Approximately 2.5 acres spanning the circumference of the stadium. Programs may include, but are not limited to, markets, food and outdoor dining, picnics and barbecues, seating, gathering, family spaces, and sunbathing. Well, who's still sunbathing? I gave that up a long time ago, obviously, clearly. Viewing the bay, outdoor performances, cinemas and events, public art and artifacts, as well as gardens. Again, that's another icing on this cake. It's another topping on this cake. 18 acres of public open space. You can't even get to Howard Terminal right now. There's a big fence. You're locked out. Here, it's wide open and it's built out. So it talked about the waterfront park and all those different areas. And again, I wasn't even sure of this until we saw this document and this layout. You can see here Pier Park. It's where those 2 cranes are on the eastern side. Athletics Way, that circles the stadium. Martin Luther King Plaza, that's right over here, number 3. It's between the Peaker Power Plant and that building number 2. Stomper Plaza is over here. It's that other green area, kind of right off Athletics Way. Market Street Gardens, that's number 5. That's right there. The Overlook Park is number 6. There's kind of a terrace right there. The Waterfront Promenade, that's 7. It runs the length of the project. 8's the Harbor Lawn. 9 is the Harbor Amphitheater and Activation Zone. 10 are the West End Gardens and Harbor Meadows. And then 11 is the West End Park. But again, if you're a betting man, some of this probably will not exist in its entirety in this project because of that turning basin. This is the area right here that we're talking about potentially being shaved off, and so might be a little bit less of the park area if that's how it turns out. A little more detail on Athletics Way. I know we've talked about it before, but the description here, Athletics Way reaches its high point at the center of the ballpark on axis with home plate. So I guess that's right here, 3. At this position, a level plaza will provide a 25,000 square foot space to accommodate pregame and game activities for A's fans, including food trucks. Whoa! We're already bringing the food trucks back. Performances and other curated events. This area may overlap or be shared with the promenade path. 25,000 square foot space right here. It's kind of a meeting area, gathering area. And I also want to mention, too, the grading of this site. This is not going to be completely flat ground because you have to understand that they're going to build up this entire site. Was it 6 feet, 8 feet, something like that, to protect from sea level rise. So this will be a small, shallow grade, but there will be some layering to Athletics Way. It's not going to be one flat, circumference of the stadium. It's probably going to end up on the lower side here and the higher side up here, like I said, to protect from sea level rise. They're actually going to raise most of the site by a certain amount. This gives you a look at Athletics Way. I mean, that gets me right there. The colors, the big A's logo, something new and shiny in green and gold. But it gives you an idea, again, of the curvature of this, how the buildings and trees and everything would surround it. Okay, now we get into the district plazas. These are extensions of Athletics Way, which again is right here. The Martin Luther King Jr. Plaza right here. The intersection, well, actually, let me begin with Stomper Plaza. At the intersection of Market Street and Martin Luther King Jr. Way, Stomper Plaza provides a 1/4 acre of open space within the district grid. The plaza provides a generous entryway to the district and serves as a connection between the two links that connect up to Athletics Way. The plaza is framed by the Bay Trail along its west and northern edges and Block 5 to the east. So Stomper Plaza, and here is a photo of it, this is going to kind of be one of the entrances from more of the commercial side of the site. People coming from the west might enter right through here, and that's kind of the welcoming plaza into the stadium. So that's one area to highlight. The other is the Martin Luther King Plaza, and this one, it says here, this will be one of the primary pedestrian entrances into the new ballpark district. Flanked by the Peaker Power Plant building and new buildings, MLK Plaza offers a framed view towards the new Oakland Athletics Ballpark. A compact tree grove is the distinguishing feature to provide shaded seating and gathering while maintaining an open ground plane for game day crowds. MLK Plaza extends the material palette of Athletics Way with a simplified patterning to respond to the historic building facade. Now, the building facade they're talking about here is this. It's a U-shaped building called the Peaker Power Plant. And actually, there may be a rendering later on here in the presentation, but they're considering cutting off part of this building to make a bigger room for Athletics Way. But this building right here has a ton of history. It's been around for, I want to say, almost 100 years. It's an auxiliary power plant, which right now runs on jet fuel. And what they'd really like to do is convert it to battery power plant, a battery-based power plant. And by doing that, they'd be able to use a lot less size, that also be a lot more environmentally friendly and efficient. And then they could kind of take back a little bit of space here while keeping what I think is a very cool and historic building. I've seen it in person. And there it is, kind of depicted right there behind the trees. Very much worth saving and keeping and optimizing and actually using. So that's Martin Luther King Plaza. All right, the Waterfront Park. While the ballpark may be the primary destination feature in the new district, the new Waterfront Park will be the reason that people return to visit throughout the year. Isn't that true? And that's what I've been saying this whole time. We're all excited about a stadium, but there's a lot more that comes with this project. As a continuously and fully public space that extends from Clay Street to the site's western edge on the estuary, the Waterfront Park intends to offer something for everyone. The park spaces features and settings that appeal to all visitors, whether for hiking, bird watching, picnicking, fishing, cycling, jogging, strolling, eating, or playing. The waterfront offers a scenic setting that lays the grounds for creating one of the region's most distinguished urban parks. A unique gathering place for an equally rich, diverse, and vibrant urban community. That's beautiful right there. Ballpark, waterfront. And if you have not been to the Oakland estuary, if you've not been to Jack London Square on a day just like this, and there are plenty of them scattered throughout the year. We're obviously so lucky to live here in Northern California, where in January, you can get a day like that. In February, you can get a day like that. It's not just summertime. In fact, in summertime, you might have the most overcast situations. You know that if you live around here. Gives you a little bit more idea here of the eastern edge of the Howard Terminal site. And in fact, there's a bunch of videos on my channel. I did some interviews with Dave Cavell. We shot a lot of footage, and it's crazy because we actually shot this footage like where these parks are right here. The Pier Park lawn is that area. The Pier Park picnic terrace, that's right next to the crane. Harbor Beach. Ooh, so we're building a beach under the cranes right there. That's very cool. And then a public viewing hill. Again, that's the grading I was talking about. This has to be built up a little bit. The stadium, the whole site built up a little bit to protect from sea level rise. So that's why you're going to get some hill areas next to Athletics Way. There's an idea of it. The visualization of Pier Park lawn. That is so cool. Using and keeping the cranes like that is so cool. And I'm sure that they'll get repainted and they'll get all fixed up. And they certainly know they're not using them again. So how do they beautify them? How do they kind of archive them for the future and many years to come? Maybe they could put a little LED lighting on them and just make something special with them. I don't know exactly how to do it, but here's some more views from that park area. There's the Harbor Beach on the bottom. There's the public viewing hill, which kind of dips into what looks to be right center field there. It's kind of that cutout of the stadium, which I think is very cool. Here's another park area. This is kind of on the western side of the stadium. Athletics Way Promontory. That's the area number 1. The Overlook Gardens, which do seem to be right there. Gosh, that is so cool if that's how it works with the path, the kind of zigzagging path that brings you down to this overlook lawn. How beautiful all of that could be. And I renderings get my brain racing really, really fast, in case you haven't noticed. All right. This is the Marine Reservation Scenario Open Space Network. And again, this is precisely 10 acres missing on the site. So it gives you an idea that the parks and everything else would be significantly different if, in fact, they couldn't use this sliver, this corner of the site. If they had to use these 10 acres for the turning basin, this is how it would differ. All right, development guidelines. Now, this is something else that I'm not sure everybody is even aware of or they haven't thought about. They know there's going to be other buildings and developments on this site, but we're talking about like some pretty major projects here construction-wise and building-wise. I mean, buildings that are 250, 300, and 400 feet high right next to the stadium. And how about this? 600 feet max, only a block away from the stadium. 600 feet, I would have to do the math on how many stories that is, but are we talking 40 plus stories at least for 600 feet, right? It would have to mean that type of height. So just to give you an idea, I mean, we're talking about, kind of its own skyline here at the Howard Terminal project. So just to give people an idea, again, the ballpark is pretty low rise. The buildings around it, I mean, check this out. You're going to get some great views, by the way, not only from those buildings of the ballpark, but you're going to get some great views of San Francisco, the Bay Bridge, probably the Golden Gate Bridge on certain days. I mean, this is a prime piece of land, visually speaking. And now it's going to be near the ballpark, and now it's going to be elevated in such a way. I mean, look, that's a relatively low-rise ballpark. I think they're trying to keep it low, kind of on purpose. It's not built up, extremely high, but these buildings, I mean, this gives you literally a towering perspective of what's likely to surround Howard Terminal. I should also point out here, to be very clear, these are outlines of shapes, right? So this gives you like the maximum size. So this is a little bit deceiving in a sense that this square is not the entire building. What you can kind of see in there is the building that fits in that square. All right. So again, maybe seeing this at first, you're thinking, whoa, those are huge buildings. These are the maximum sizes they can be. But still, I mean, there are going to be some tall structures if we're talking 600 feet, just a block away from the ballpark. Gives you a little bit more information here in this document about street walls and the public realm, just kind of design stuff. And there's a ton more information in this 110-page document, which again, I encourage you to go read for yourself. But I really like what they've come up here with samples of operable facades. So, everybody's seen a restaurant where the doors are windows and they just kind of open up to everybody and there's no like literal front door. Using planners to softly define spaces, blurring indoor environments with the outdoors. So kind of like an indoor/outdoor, bar, restaurant, patio area. And how about this one? Creatively using porosity, like something porous, to engage the streetscape. So you're kind of inside, but you're kind of outside right there at that restaurant. It's interesting. It's very creative. It's also got here the detail of these buildings, the frontages. So some buildings can have more of a frontage, and then they get set back a little bit for the residential area above. Market Street is the anticipated primary retail corridor within the neighborhood and will serve as a destination shopping and dining experience, catering to both visitors as well as locals. As one of the main entry corridors into the site, the streetscape is defined by a consistent and vibrant street wall, which frames the iconic view of the crane. We talked about that before. by the waterfront and becomes a defining feature of the district. So it's very important to them that they keep that viewing area open so that down Market Street, you see how it ends with a crane. Very cool design. There's a look at Market Street right there with that big gold elephant. And that's Stomper Plaza right there. So now you're putting all of this together for the first time. You're seeing that here's how it looks. Here's how the entrance to the stadium would look like. This is Stomper Plaza, and then Athletics Way is over there, and then Howard Terminal's over there. I keep almost saying the Coliseum is over there. I'm going to have to train that out of my muscle memory in the brain. District gateways. These are kind of the entry points into the site. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can easily see those. Later, there's a bit of a description of the overpasses and the grade separations that they'll want to do. Facade articulation. Now, this is such a deep and detailed, thing to lay out here already. I mean, we're not even at the architectural point yet, or at least publicly that's not been released, but they can already tell you what they want these buildings to look like. A lot of squares, a lot of natural surfaces here, human-scaled facade expression, potential materiality examples. So they're basically saying, look, here's a pretty close idea of the things that we like. A lot of modern stuff, a lot of modern mixed with natural stuff. I like it. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could go with this, but to satisfy everybody's a hard thing. I like the way that's put. Another thing that they really want to do here is vegetated terracing roofscapes. So a lot of the tops of buildings, I don't think they want to see air conditioning units, and they don't want to see, the industrial side of a building. They want to do as much growth, natural growth as they can. And that's evident on top of the stadium, as well as between the buildings, as well as on top of as many buildings as possible. So again, that's going to look great. When you see this, when you eventually get the full build out and the trees start to grow and mature, it's going to be noticeable. Here is that grade separation I was talking about. Two main things to look at here. The project may also include a new vehicular bridge at Brush Street. Okay, so that is this right here, Brush Street kind of leading into the site. Then you can see how it directs traffic into these streets over here. I guess Street A, they've not named Street A yet, have they? Brody Brazil Drive? No. Dave Stewart Way. Smoke Way. How about that? Anyway, I digress. And then the project EIR will include a new pedestrian/bicycle bridge at Jefferson Street right here. So it talks about getting additional people on to this site with a grade separation above those train tracks are right here. They're depicted right here. So those are important things about getting people onto and off the site safely, whether they're in a car or whether on a bike or they're walking over. All right, section 4, we've finally arrived at the last section here. It talks about the ballpark. And I do want to read this because I think it's important to give you an idea. Historically, ballparks have taken the form and shape of their neighborhoods. I like the way it's spelled there with the U. Unlike other types of stadiums, ballparks have begun as an extension of their existing urban fabric and as an active participant in people's everyday life. The design for the A's new home at The design for the A's new home at the heart of Oakland's revitalized waterfront will return the game to its roots as the natural meeting place for the local community. An elevated tree-lined promenade will frame the ballpark on all sides, dipping down to meet the public square and open the field to the water and city views. The perimeter park will connect a cascade of social spaces for fans to enjoy the sport on game days and extends the urban fabric with the neighborhood park to be enjoyed all 365 days a year. In other words, to sum this all up, we will be bringing the park back in ballpark. They really want to make this a public open space as well as a ballpark. Talks about the ballpark design concept, what went into the design of the stadium actually at Howard Terminal, not the entire project, but just the ballpark. Intimate. The new ballpark will bring fans as close to the on-field action as possible. Man, that is a far cry from the Coliseum. And have an ideal view of the pitcher's mound. Okay, so everything's centered maybe towards the middle of the infield versus, your seat faces left field or center field. Everybody's going to try and face the pitcher's mound. The field will the field will follow some of the smallest dimensions of the MLB guidelines. Not the MLB, of MLB guidelines. So they're trying to literally make this the smallest field that MLB will allow for. Interesting and fun, right? Could be a lot of fun to watch games there that way. The foul territory will end shortly after the infield in order to optimize the view lines of the seats toward home plate. Again, I think what they're saying here is they're just really going to try and make sure that after the infield, those seats really angle back towards the infield, towards the action, instead of, seats in left field or around left field facing left field down the line. And also uniquely Oakland, the rooftop park atop the ballpark will appear as a park in the sky, an extension of the spectator experience for fans on game day, and a publicly accessible park for the remainder of the year. The tree-lined promenade will leverage the full 360-degree panorama and dramatic views of Oakland and the Bay. And I keep saying this. You've never seen a project like this before. You've never seen these views before. This is an area that people have not been allowed to go ever before. So I've seen it. Wait until you see it. Wait until you get the total build out and you get all the views and you're seeing it from the third deck or you're seeing it from that rooftop park. There are a lot of spectacular things that are untapped that already exist. But when they get tapped, trust me, you're going to realize how big this is. All right, section 4.2, circulation and access. This stuff is important. I'll quickly summarize here. Arriving from Jack London Square, so the eastern side, the facade of the A's new ballpark will welcome in the community back to the game. The rooftop park dips down to the ground towards the waterfront, allowing access to the rooftop park for ticketed fans on game days and the public on non-event days. On the exterior of the bowl, generous stairs will pull people up from Jack London Square to transform the concourses into continuations of Water Street and Athletics Way. So they're really trying to make this one, and that's why they went from the square design initially to this circle, right? They want to get people all in one kind of curve here. They don't want jagged edges and turns and hard turns, all one kind of walk and then right up the ramp, and then boom, your second deck, you look down at your seat, or your third deck, or you're on the main concourse, whatever. Services on the public concourses will be stacked in order to create unobstructed views from the street to the bowl. That's pretty cool. The services and vertical circulation cords will remain directly adjacent to the concourses for easy accessibility. How about this one? A VIP vehicular drop-off, so basically where Stu is going to get dropped off at, directly behind home plate will provide a welcoming lobby and vertical connection to the suites and different clubs within the ballpark. So basically main entrance here, pull up, take an elevator probably up, and then you're on whatever level you're on. The services and vertical circulation cords will remain directly adjacent to the concourses for easy accessibility. Oh, I already got that point. The VIP vehicular drop-off. The field-level VIP lobby is doubled by a VIP entrance directly on Athletics Way. So if you're important, you're going to be entering right over here behind home plate. At the field level, a service tunnel will connect the clubhouses to the different ballpark operations and food services, as well as to the loading and media trucks. Hey, where Brazil will probably be hanging out. So yes, that field level concourse, that ground level that pretty much every Major League ballpark, every NBA and NHL and NFL venue already have, this stadium's obviously going to have it too. All right, game day perimeter fences. Now, I think it's important to note they're trying to make this space open and accessible, but at the same time, certain days you can only allow people in that are ticketed. So where do you make the cutoff? How do you keep what's open and what's ticketed? And this kind of gives you an idea of the areas that are going to be anticipated secured perimeters, right? I don't know if it's fencing or how exactly they're going to do this, but the document does detail the exact ideas of how they would do this and what it would look like. But this is kind of the area here that, you're in that yellow zone. This is the secure area for ticketed A's fans for these game days. Again, this is something that I had never seen before. This is the first look at details, and of course, this will largely change. But at least now it gives you an idea of how this layout's going to go. All right, section 4.4, the facade. The facade of the ballpark should meet the basic requirement to protect against the western winds on Howard Terminal. Protective yet open, the facade should outline the soft curves on the ballpark and follow for critical views towards San Francisco, the Bay, and the city of Oakland. The facade will take form of ribbons that follow the main circulation and slab line. So I think these are the ribbons they're talking about here, creating a dynamic expression both towards the water and towards the street. I really like this. I think this is so simple and modern and is going to stand the test of time. It's weird to say right now because everybody's been copying each other with the old throwback ballpark look. Everybody's been doing that since Camden Yards did it in the early 90s. Every new stadium has been that. It is important to note that what the A's are going to do here is a departure. This is not the old throwback ballpark. They're kind of breaking away from the mold that everybody else has been doing. And I think sometimes it's safer to do what everybody else has been doing because you know that's a formula that has worked. But also, is that formula now maybe past its prime? And if we're talking about a ballpark that's not even going to be open until later in this decade, do you want to keep copying something from the 90s when you're in the late 2020s? Think about that for just a second. So I like the fact that this facade, again, is modern, it's minimalist, it's simplistic, but it's also elegant and, again, probably going to stand the test of time. And it also very much fits in the landscape of Howard Terminal. All right, the rooftop park, the design of the rooftop park will strategically choreograph the best views and vantage points. And I love that, right? They're thinking about how do we get the best looks of Oakland and the bay and across the bay and the hills of Oakland. Strategically choreograph the best views and vantage points to the ball field and across the bay. Promontory overlook should focus views outward with 360-degree panoramas, including views towards the Oakland and San Francisco skylines, the Golden Gate, the Bay Bridge, the Oakland Hills, nice, and other landmarks on the skyline. Importantly, the rooftop park will be designed to especially be visible from across the site and from Water Street below, the green rooftop becoming a curious magnet and green destination in the sky. That's an interesting way to put it, a curious magnet. Like, what's that up there? Let's go check that out. That's going to be the rooftop park surrounding the stadium. I can't wait to take a stroll, like a pregame stroll. Maybe I'll watch some batting practice from up there eventually. And that's it. That is a 110-page document, which, again, gives probably the most detailed look at Howard Terminal to date. Like, there are some new things in there that I'd never heard about before, never thought about before. And now we're getting more information. So that's the video. I realize it was a whopper. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. But let me know what you're excited about in the comments section below, your thoughts on how this project is going. And hopefully when you watch this 10, 15 years down the road and now the project has already been built, you can reflect on this and remember what the A's were thinking about in early 2022. And man, look how young Brazil used to look.